Hey, and welcome to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. If you are new here, a very special warm welcome to you. My name is Heather Tesco, and I have been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009. Today, we are doing another History's Mysteries. Are the Casket Letters real? What are the Casket Letters? Did Mary, Queen of Scots, really write all of those love letters? What is the controversy around the Casket Letters? Will we ever know? Let's think about it and talk about it and dive right in. Before we get started though, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on History's Mysteries or other videos that I put out. It helps me grow the channel and I am so very grateful. Thank you so much. Okay, so the Casket Letters, what are they? They're a set of documents that have played a central role in the turbulent life of Mary, Queen of Scots and have been the subject of controversy and debates for centuries. So we're going to talk about the history of the letters, the scholarly debate around their authenticity, and how they impacted Mary's life. We're also going to talk about the parties who had the most to gain from forging them and arguments for and against their authenticity. It's going to be a heavy one, huh? There's a lot to talk about. So, the Casket Letters were a collection of 8 letters and 12 sonnets purportedly written by Mary, Queen of Scots, to her alleged lover, James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Bothwell. So Mary's reign, of course, was characterized by political and religious turmoil, and her marriage to Lord Darnley, which ultimately ended in his murder, further fueled the controversy around her. The Casket Letters were discovered in a small silver gilt casket in June of 1567, just a few months after Darnley, her husband, had been murdered. He was her second husband, by the way. They were found by James Douglas, who was the 4th Earl of Morton. He was a prominent figure in Scottish nobility. He was also, conveniently enough, a staunch opponent of Mary. The contents of the letters were said to implicate Mary in Darnley's murder and to provide evidence of her adulterous relationship with Bothwell. The letters were used as evidence against Mary during the various trials and inquiries that followed, and they played a significant role in her eventual abdication, imprisonment, and even her execution. The authenticity of the letters has been the subject of extensive scholarly debate for centuries. Some historians believe that the letters are genuine. Others argue that they were forgeries created by Mary's enemies to help to discredit her and justify her deposition. The debate surrounding the authenticity of the letters hinges on several factors, including their provenance, the analysis, the linguistic analysis, and the political context of the time. So let's talk about each one of those. The provenance of the Casket Letters is one of the main points of contention in the debate. The letters were said to have been discovered by James Douglas, 4th Earl of Morton, who had a vested interest in Mary's downfall. His acquisition of the letters has raised suspicions. It's unclear how he came into the possession of them. Some argue that the letters were intercepted. Others believe they were handed over by one of Bothwell's servants. Critics of the authenticity argue that the circumstances around their discovery cast doubt on their legitimacy. The linguistic analysis also produces conflicting results. Some experts have identified similarities between the handwriting, the syntax, and the vocabulary of the letters and Mary's known writing. Others have noted discrepancies that suggest a forgery. For example, some of the letters are written in French, which was Mary's primary language, while others are in Scots, which was a language that Mary was less proficient in. Additionally, the sonnets included in the collection are stylistically different from her known poetry. So the evidence with linguistic analysis is inconclusive, and that has further fueled the debate. Also, then there was the political context, another significant factor in the debate over their authenticity. In the years following the discovery of the letters, numerous parties had vested interests in discrediting Mary and justifying getting rid of her. This includes her Protestant opponents who sought to prevent her from returning to power and implementing pro-Catholic policies, as well as even her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I of England, who was wary of her potential claim to the English throne. Of course, she was a Catholic, So the Catholics could have rallied around her and, said that she was the rightful claim to the throne. This has led to some historians arguing that the letters were forged as part of a concerted effort to discredit Mary and to consolidate power among her enemies. The Casket Letters had a profound impact on Mary's life and her reign. Their discovery and their subsequent use against her as evidence against her led to her imprisonment, her forced abdication, and her eventual execution. Her alleged involvement in her husband's murder, as detailed in the letters, tarnished her reputation and provided her enemies with the justification they needed to remove her from power. Following the discovery of the letters, she was imprisoned in Lochleven Castle, where she was coerced into abdicating in favor of her infant son, James VI. She would spend the next 19 years in captivity under the watchful eye of her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. During this time, several plots were hatched to free Mary and restore her to the throne, further exacerbating tensions between England and Scotland. Ultimately, she was executed in 1587 for her alleged involvement in a plot to assassinate Elizabeth I. So, who had the most to gain from forging the letters, if they were indeed forgeries? There were several parties who stood to gain from their creation and dissemination. Among them were James Douglas, the fourth Earl of Morton, the man who discovered the letters. There were also the Scottish Protestant lords. The Protestant nobility in Scotland were deeply opposed to her pro-Catholic policies and her alliance with France. By discrediting Mary and forcing her to abdicate, the Protestant lords were able to consolidate power and pursue their religious agenda. And then there was Queen Elizabeth I. Mary's potential claim to the English throne posed a significant threat to Elizabeth's reign. By discrediting Mary and keeping her imprisoned, Elizabeth was able to neutralize this threat and maintain her position as the sole ruler of England. There are several theories as to how the casket letters could have been forged. One possibility is that they were created by skilled forgers who had access to her genuine correspondence and were able to mimic her handwriting and writing style. This would have required a considerable degree of expertise, though, as well as access to samples of her writings. Another possibility is that they were based on genuine correspondence between Mary and Bothwell, but were altered to include incriminating content. This theory suggests that forgers took existing letters and embellished them with details implicating Mary in Darnley's murder and her alleged adulterous relationship with Bothwell. This would have, again, required less experience in forgery, but you would still have to be good. But the forgers would only need to modify the existing documents rather than create them from scratch. Now let's talk about the arguments in favor of authenticity. There are many arguments against the authenticity, but there are also several that say that they probably are authentic. They include detailed knowledge of events and personal relationships in the letters. The letters contain intimate details about Mary's life, her relationship with Bothwell, and the events surrounding Darnley's murder. Some historians argue that this level of detail would have been difficult to fabricate convincingly. Also, the linguistic evidence. So the linguistic analysis is kind of up in the air, but there are some similarities, as I said before. And also the lack of a clear motive for forgery. Several parties stood to gain from her downfall, but some historians argue that there's no clear evidence to suggest that any of these parties were involved in the creation of the casket letters. Additionally, the complexity and the risk involved in forging the letters make it less likely that they were the result of a conspiracy. There's also the absence of a smoking gun. Despite centuries of scrutiny, no definite evidence has emerged to prove that the casket letters were forgeries. While there are many reasons to doubt their authenticity, there's no single piece of evidence that conclusively disproves their legitimacy. So, in conclusion, they've been a source of controversy and debate for centuries. Their authenticity has been called into question due to the circumstances surrounding their discovery, the linguistic analysis, and the political context of the time, but there's also arguments in favor of their legitimacy. So, what do you think? Despite centuries of investigation, the question of the casket letters is still unresolved. It's still a history's mystery. I would love to know what you think. Leave a comment below and tell me what your thoughts are on the casket letters. Who had the most to gain out of this? who would have been able to do it, who would have been able to forge it, or maybe you think they're real. I would love to know. Just a note, the TutorCon is September 8th through 10th too, before we close this out. So if you want to spend 3 days with tutor lovers like yourself, some of your new best tutor friends who will get your jokes about whether Tom Seymour shot Edward VI's dog and if Anne of Cleves really was the ugly one, go to englandcast.com/tutorcon right now to find out how you can come to TutorCon September 8th through 10th in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought. And don't forget to subscribe and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. It helps me grow the channel and reach more people with histories, mysteries, and other history goodness. Have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk with you again very soon. Bye.